Hello everyone, my name is Serge and welcome to Hive Nexus. In this set of videos, we're going to build our very first Hive Explorer. For the back end, we'll be using Node.js, Express, Cors, and Hive. And on the front end, we'll keep things simple with HTML and CSS. I won't be typing out every single line of code. I'll rely on IntelliSense so we can move through the setup a bit faster. But if you'd like to follow along at your own pace, feel free to pause the video anytime. But don't worry, I'll explain everything in more detail in the slides shortly. With that said, let's kick things off by setting up the backend. For the backend, we'll be using the software called Node.js. I've already covered this in a detailed lesson before on how to install Node.js and what it is, but I'll run it through as a recap. Node.js runs JavaScript outside the browser. This is extremely important if you want to connect with the blockchain. It's built on Google's V8 engine and is ideal for fast and event-driven servers. Now I will move on to the architecture of what our whole backend is going to look like. We'll have a front end, which will run a fetch command. That fetch command will go to our backend, which will then query the blockchain. Our backend will use dhive to query the RPC nodes, right? And return a reply from the blockchain in the form of a structured JSON, which we will then show on the front end. So without further ado, so the first thing we'll do is we will create a folder, which was going to be, in this case, is Hive Explorer, right? That is the name of the app. Inside Hive Explorer, we're going to have two folders. Front end, which will house the HTML and CSS, and the backend, which will house our server.js file. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create a server.js file. Then, using the terminal, we will write the command npm init-y. What this will do is it will initiate our Node.js file. You can see that through the package JSON here. Next, we will add a module, right? This is extremely important. So because we're going to be using ES modules to type things up, right? We could just use something called CommonJS, and that would not be a problem. But for cleaner code, we use ES modules. I will cover that shortly in detail. The next thing what we're going to do is we're going to create an Express. So what is Express? Express is the minimal web framework for Node.js. It simplifies routing and server creation. It is used to build REST APIs efficiently. I have covered what REST APIs are. The way to install that is you do the command npm install Express. As it's installing, when you go to the package JSON file, you can see it's been added, Express. For the purpose of this video, the first thing we're going to do is just initialize our backend of what it is and how it looks like. Then what we'll do is we'll import Express from Express, right? This has basically become a header. You remember when we put this type module? If, for instance, we did not put this, right, and we went back to this, then we could use something called require. However, we're using ES modules, so we're going to use import Express. So we need to add that information, which is type module. Once we have declared what Express does, what is Express, we will talk about why we have to import it. To import, we have to import Express module, which will allow the creation of app.get and app.listen, right? Which is basically if someone is fetching, it will be able to get the information, and it will set up a listener, and so forth, so on. It forms the base of our backend server. So the first thing, once we have imported, is we have to create the Express app. This is the command for creating it. There's const app equal Express, which builds the web server. What this will do is it will attach all routes to this object, and it will become a central part of our server architecture. So let's do that. Right? Now that we have added the const express, our next step is going to be testing and to create a route. The way to create a route is very simple. is by doing app.get, and then we'll do something like hello from the Hive Explorer backend. That's ideal. With this done, what we're doing is we're sending a simple route to confirm the server is running. It will return the text that Hive API server is running or the backend is running. And this is a useful way to check during development if our Express app is even running or not. But for it to progress, we need to set up a listener, right? And that way you can do is you can set up a command called app.listen 3000, which opens the port 3000. Let me explain that by typing it out. As you can see, this is the command, right? Which we've run as app.get and app.listen. Now what is happening is it's listening at the 3000 port, which can be accessed, the server will can be accessed at localhost 3000, right? It's basically a callback when the server starts. What is the port 3000? It's a network port that accepts requests, right? And it's a common default for node development. The front end will fetch data from this port. So let's see if our server is even running. If our server is running, we should get this information from in localhost 3000. The way to run server is to type out node server.js. Click on it. There we go. Our backend is working. And this is it for this lesson. Next, we will progress towards integrating this with dhive, which is the local which is the official library to fetch data from Hive blockchain.